Welcome to this HelloID webinar brought to you by Tools Forever. Today we'd like to give you an overview of the new functionality in HelloID. We encourage you to ask questions. You can do this via the WebEx chat option. You can find the option here. At the end of the demonstration, your questions will be answered. I'd like to turn this over to Tjeerd Seinen, HelloID Product Manager. He will explain and demonstrate the new HelloID functionality. Enjoy, and don't forget to post the questions.
Jamie, thank you for the introduction. Welcome everybody. This is the March webinar for the release we did just last Sunday. And these are very specific times with the coronavirus. I think the good news is that as Tools Forever we all work from home, but we are able to keep completely operational. And so we will continue to develop software and to deliver other services. And we will stick more or less to the roadmap. Of course, we will make some modifications, but the majority of the roadmap is going to be continued as already communicated. All right, so let's go to the webinar. And I'd like to give the PowerPoint presentation as always, and then I'd like to follow up with demoing the software. You're very welcome to ask questions, and I will answer the questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's start with the PowerPoint presentation. First, I'd like to give service automation, and then I'd like to go to provisioning and then access management. For service automation, we created a couple of new items. We are now able to pass form input information on the URL, and I will demo this on provisioning, where a new user is created, and then the manager can straight jump into group management and jump to the correct user. And that's already been predefined, pre-selected by the URL. I will demo you this new functionality in a couple of minutes. We also have added a couple of defaults now for the grids. We also do for the radio button for the multi-select. And so you can pre-select already a user that is retrieved, for example, from the network. And we did it also for the drop-down box. And I think major is not really visible, but we also extended the API. And now you are able to send product requests via the API. So you can create a form, you can include products on that form. And if, for example, the manager requests those products, then those products will be, with the corresponding workflows, of course, will be executed. We also have, and we are not really finished with that yet, I'm not going to demo it today, but we are adding API support that you can create the whole form set. So there's the data sources, the forms, the delegated forms, the tasks, and everything that is associated with the whole dynamic forms. And that's really easy if you have to do a lot of deployments of portals. That is really applicable for managed service providers. So if you have 10, 20, 30 or hundreds of clients, you don't want to build up the whole service automation stack from scratch. And then you can do that by using the API. You can automate the whole process. So we did it for the forms and for the data sources, and I think in the next release in April I will demo you this functionality. Today I won't do that. Okay, provisioning, a lot of new items. So now we have, you can include additional fields on the target systems, for example the extension attributes, but you can do any fields you like, for example for the Active Directory. You also have a flexible OU mechanism. It was fixed, it was on create, enable and disable, but now, for example, you can also include the department for the user that is being created. A lot more flexible, and you can use PowerShell scripts for that. We also have custom field extensions on the person vault, so you can extend the vault in HelloID, include more information from HR into the vault, and perhaps pass it on to the target system. We also have changed the UI of the business view, so the functionality is exactly the same, but the UI is, instead of tiles, we have a grid overview, so we can show more rules. We also have more options to manage passwords in the Active Directory, and we also have more functionality on the Exchange mailbox from the Active Directory. We also have now the option to, that's removed actually, the entitlement data. If you have revoked entitlements, so if people were removed from groups, that was shown in the entitlement overview. That data was not really helpful, so we removed that from the entitlements overview. It is still visible on the log information, but not on the global entitlements overview. You now have the option not to delete the account. So if you are out of scope of a rule, then normally account would be created, but if it's out of scope of the rule, it would be deleted. Now you have an option not to do that anymore. And we have a little bit, this is a small thing, a little bit more summary information on the person details in a rule. I will show you, it's easy to show that. Okay, for access management, I'm not going to demo you that today. We have a more or less technical integration. Is now we have the a more advanced option. Let me turn on the pointer. We have a more advanced integration between Active Directory or Active Directory Azure and HelloID. And let me explain this in a PowerPoint, and I will briefly show you this in the software where you can find it. So this is a very common setup. Then HelloID is the IDP, and then you have multiple applications. Those are the SPs and integrated on SSO on HelloID. Another thing is that you can say, well, the Azure AD is the IDP, and so if you log on to HelloID or redirect to Azure AD, you log in, and then you have a session. That's based on SAML. Then you also have apps that are SSO integrated with Active Directory, and this will all work. Then you get a session to get SSO here and here. That is a common setup, it's already supported today, and the SAML integration just does its job. Now we had the issue that if an application is retrieving information from this app, so suppose this is a social internet environment that wants to retrieve information from email, so suppose to order tasks and to show the subject of the new arrived emails. And then you can do that with the Graph API. And the Graph API is supporting that information. With the Graph API, you can retrieve that sort of information. The downside, actually for us, is that you need a more advanced ticket. So then you need Azure AD OpenID Connect. That's in short OIDC. And OIDC gives you more, the access for the Graph API to get that information. If you don't have this integration instead of SAML, you get an access denied if you want to retrieve additional information from this app. We extended this so that you can pass more information to this app. We can, it's the on behalf token, and we can pass that on to the app, and then this app should also include this in passing this information to the Graph API. So this application here must support this functionality. So we send the on behalf information to the app, and then I can use that with the Graph API to retrieve that information. I will briefly show you where you can find this information in the HelloID portal. So let me demo the new functionality to you. So I already prepared, of course. So the thing what I want to start with is the URL parsing. So I have an app here, and I can search for a user. I can search for myself, and then it's being searched in an app, like it's being displayed. Now I can also pre-select this user. So here I have the option to pass an extra parameter. So here I can say, okay, I want to search for Chit. So now Chit is being filled in here. And of course I can also search for another user. So now I'm just passing information from the URL into a search for a user. So how can you configure this and how can you use it? It's nice that you can also use it from provisioning, and so let me show that as well. I will show you the end result. So this is the email that's being generated by provisioning, and I included 2 new links. So this is to the service desk. So as a manager, I can go here to these apps, but I also have a direct link here. So I can start, so this is the new user that is being created, Christopher, and if I can jump straight to this Christopher user. So it's searching for Christopher. I can easily select and use it, so I don't have to search for it anymore. I can directly jump from the email to the correct user. And of course I can include as many links as I like. I can also show you how you can do that. And here I'm in dynamic forms. Let me jump to provisioning. Target systems, Active Directory, email notification, and here it is. So I included 2 extra links, and here I can show you. So now I have form user, that's the parsing URL, and this is the keyword. And that's automatically being filled in if the email is being created and sent to the manager. I can also show you in the form how you can configure it. So let me go to the form editor, self-service, form, it is group management. And I'm passing information to this edit box. And I make the component, it was already available, so this was, I can make it on another field, but now I have a new option, URL query parameter. So this is actually the keyword I'm using, and it's being prefixed by form. So this is the way how to use this. So you can pre-select information for a form. You can also use multiple fields. So you have the option to also have, if you have multiple fields, then you can use multiple parameters. Okay, so let me show you the default selections for the grid, the radio button, the multi-select, and the drop-down. And I have this also available. So let me. Okay, so I have a form, and then it has the grid, the drop-down, etc. And everything is being pre-selected. So support is pre-selected, support out of the many that is available, the radio button, and the multi-select. And I can show you how to do that. So it is based on a data source, and the selection property, so the default selection is being turned on. So this is new, and it's being based on the value in this column. So if I go to the demo departments data source, I have a column that's labeled as default, so that is this option here, and support is true. And I can also change that, of course, and say that this is false and consultancy is true. So I can also show you the multi-value selection. Save and refresh this one. So now it's development and consultancy. This is the multi-select, so you can also have a multi-pre-selection. Okay, so now let me go to a more advanced one, and that's the product request API. So the product request API gives you a lot of flexibility in how to offer product management to a manager. So let me go to the manager, and I have manage users here, and I can look at myself because Amir is my manager, and here I can manage. So if I do this, show not own products, I can request those products for tiered. If I want to have more flexibility on how to deal with this, of course I can use this this screen, but that of course it's out of the box and fixed. But I also have this option here, request products. And here I can also select cheered. And here I can request products for cheered. So I can say, okay, I want to select, request those products. It's basically the same interface I just showed you. It's different interface, but the same functionality. Now I'm requesting Citrix, Ultimo, and ADAP ONS, the products for cheered. If there are corresponding workflows associated to these products, they will be fired off. It's basically the same mechanism if I would use this interface or the end user interface for cheered himself. So if I'm going here to, so here I'm cheered, and it's basically the same if I'm using this interface, and I will see the effect that Amir will request those products for me. So let me double check if I'm requesting products that are not available. So Avas is not available, and Motivo. So let me select the right ones. So go for Avas and Motivo. There we go. Also important to know is that I'm not using input. So I need to select products that don't need input, otherwise I need to have other additional fields on this form. So let me request this. And now the API is being invoked. I will show you how that works. But now let me go to the end user, and Avas and Motivo was requested by. So this is basically the result. It's waiting for an approval. Let me switch to English. And since Amir is also the one that should give the approval, it's automatically changing to approved. Okay, I looked on docs. I cannot find the API documentation yet. I can show you how you can do it. You can also request the API example scripts. And but let me briefly jump over there and show you how I built this. So here I have a form, products, request products, and here's the selection. And if I go to the delegation, it's also called products, request products. This was just the app I just showed you as the manager. And then I execute this task. And this is the major thing that is being added in this release. And now I have the option to, of course, the PowerShell script. PowerShell script is relatively simple, but this is the call I'm making. Here I am making the product request API to request the products for the selected users and the selected products. Okay, I'm not going to go into more detail because it's going to be really, really technical. I think for service automation, let me check my list. This is it. And I'm not going to show you yet. I'm going to do that next month on how to create products via the API in HelloID. And of course, that is this section. It's an admin section, and it will show you that I can create forms straight from an API, from a PowerShell script for data sources and tasks and the whole cycle. I think even including the variable management. Okay, so let me jump over to provisioning, because that's the another long list of new items. So let me start by going to provisioning and with the extension of attributes. So here there's a new option, custom fields, and with this option I can extend the HelloID vault. So I have no new fields yet, but I will create a new custom field. Pizza. It will be. I have options for the person and contract, but I will only extend the person, and also give it the same name, pizza. And so now I have extended the HelloID vault. It is this easy. So, you can see that I made a change, and then this is the new field. I can also remove it. I can add other fields, Of course, I want to add now new data to that field. So I can go here to person data, and here I have the new option pizza custom field. So let me add this, and I make it give it a fixed value. There we go. So if I look at myself, there we go. I can see that the custom field here is Hawaii. That's going to be my pizza topping. And we also have the option now to have custom field extensions to the target systems. And that is here, so account. So now I can add new custom fields. Also good to see that we have extra password field options. That's later on in the PowerPoint presentation. I just gave you. So here are the password options. So let me extend. So now I can just use this field. I can just fill in any field I like. There's no validation on the field, so you need to fill in the correct name of that field. And of course I can map it to my new field, and that's the pizza. And I can also update it on changes. That is all the same. So let me save. Before I can do a force update, I need to re-import the data source. So let me do that first. Do the import. So now the whole vault is being updated with the pizza Hawaii. And we can go back to the target system. Accounts. Select shared. Select myself. And here you can see that the extension attribute now is being set. And if I think I already did an update as well. And it's going wrong because I don't have an extended attribute in my Active Directory. So that's why it's failing to update the account. Actually, bad example, but you can see that it works trying to update an attribute that does not exist in my Active Directory. So now let me switch over to another new option we have, and that is in this section, administration. Two new options actually. You can do delete the account when revoking. Yeah, so this is a new option and might be very handy that if you create an account on the start of an employee, but you don't want to delete the account. So if you go into the rule here, create account, and here the account is being created, but if it's out of scope of this rule, it will actually also delete the account. And perhaps there are, of course, situations that you want to disable the account, but not to delete the account. And then you have per target system this new option. Then you can say I don't want to delete the account when the entitlement is being revoked from the business rule. And we also have these. It used to be fixed, so on create and enable and disable. And here this is new. So now I have a PowerShell option, very powerful. So now I can edit. I have a script here, and I can make any modifications that I like. I can also verify the result. And everybody now is created in this OU. So suppose I want to add the department to the OU, I need to make a modification here to the script. So I already did a little preparation. So this is the very small extension. There we go. So now in this variable, the department of the contract is being filled in, and I can use this here. There we go. I can now verify if that result is okay. And there we go. Now ICT is going to be, because I'm part of the ICT department, and I will put in the correct OU for that department. Okay, I think I already briefly showed you the business overviews, and now we have rules instead of tiles. It's a little bit easier to have more than a lot, because the tiles are a little bit cumbersome, a little bit big, and now we have a more tangible grid view, so we can add more and more business rules to the system. I already showed you the parsing options, exchange mailbox. Not really much to demo to show because I don't have, as you saw, the extended attributes. And but this is the exchange integration, and important part is that you have, depending on the setup you have an advanced authentication mechanism to communicate with Exchange. Okay, so we also made a modification here, small change. So all the revoke, if you're going to be revoked from an entitlement, a group managementship is not being shown here. It is shown in the audit log, but not in this overview anymore. Okay, this is basically a very, very small one. Here this is new. This was not shown. It was, of course, you could edit it, but now the person attribute value is also shown in the overview here. Okay, so now let me jump to the latest of the last thing, and that is access management. And I need to show this in the preview environment because there everything is being configured. So let me log out on my production environment. Let me go to preview. This is a new option. I will show you how you can configure that. That's the new way to authenticate yourself against the Azure AD. And the PowerPoint presentation here. So I will show you here. So we had SAML, but we now have a new option in the IDP here. And I will demo and I will show you where you can find this. And of course I cannot demo you this because this is part of the application itself. So let me jump back to my portal and security, authentication, identity providers. So here in the catalog we have a new option to authenticate yourself with Azure AD. This was already that already existed, SAML, and this is the new one, the OpenID Connect, the more advanced option to get information for the Graph API. And I already configured this one. Configuration is pretty straightforward and it's well documented in the docs section. To go to the application, that's of course on the on this. Now I'm going to have a look here. On behalf, that's the app. Oh. There we go. Configuration, mapping, yes. No, don't want to change attributes. So these are new attributes that you can pass on to the target application, so that application can use that to get the right authentication with the Graph API. Okay, so that was it. There was a lot of new functionality in this webinar, in this functionality, in this release, March release. April will be another good release again. Really looking forward to that. Jamie, I see there are some questions. Can you read the questions for me? Thank you.
Yes, Cheered. Thank you so much. Why is Web Services Federation moved again in the roadmap?
Yes, that's an interesting question. Why is WS Federation shifted forward in the roadmap? And it was originally planned in January, then we shifted it to February, and now it's scheduled for May. And we have taken some bad decisions in how to implement WS Federation. And we first tried to implement it ourselves, the protocol, but now we found out that there is an identity server from Microsoft available and that we can easily use. So now we're shifting that to that platform and using the Microsoft technology for that. Now it's scheduled for May, and we are pretty confident that it will be delivered. We already are pretty far down the road in developing this new functionality. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the question. Next question, Jamie.
Okay, second question. The configuration of HelloID service automation is rather technical. Are you considering taking steps to make it a little bit more user-friendly?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Service automation is very powerful, also very flexible, but also very complicated to configure. Sometimes you have to open 4 or 5 tabs to make a form operational. And for now, we are focusing on first major item is to get the performance right. Then we want to make sure that everything is being covered that we were able to do with IAM and with Umra. And we want to have full API support. And we expect that by summer this year we have that all finished. And then the next topic is to make the configuration a lot easier. So we first want to have that the operational stuff is okay in service automation. And then we start working on to make it easier to configure. And we definitely have a lot of options to improve that and to make it a lot easier. But that's going to be the second half of this year where we come to concentrate on that aspect. Thank you for the question.
Okay, last question. I can't find documentation on HelloID provisioning. Where do I look for this?
Yes, the documentation is it is already documented, but it's not linked in the portal yet. So let me show you where you can do this. So go to the portal, go to the provisioning. And if I'm here in a target system configuration, if I click here on the online help, you don't see any help. It's not linked yet. However, we already have a lot of documentation already available, but you have to go to the docs.helloid.com, and then here most of the items are already configured. But we are pushing very hard on making that the documentation is more and more available, and that you can directly link from the provisioning section to the correct documentation section. So we're definitely working on that and making that a lot better. Okay, Jamie, I see this is the last question. Thank you so much today. I think the March release was a really good release. A lot of new functionality. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for all the questions and interest in our products. And well, definitely looking forward to see you again or talk to you again for the April release. Okay, thank you and have a very nice day and weekend. Okay, bye-bye.